Hi, I'm Ruth George, and this is the Good Life and Legacy podcast, where we explore answers to the questions, how are you creating a great legacy by living well, planning well, and supporting those that you care about? And this month, I'm switching gears from professionals sharing wisdom to young people sharing their insights. Just like we talk about starter homes and starter cars, these folks are also just getting started. So, in this episode, in addition to our usual topics of enjoying yourself, planning, and confident decision making, we'll talk about what might be involved in a starter estate plan. And welcome, Gregory George.
Thanks for having me on. I'm excited to be here and share my point of view on some things.
Ah, excellent. I'm so happy you're here. All right, so Greg, tell us, where are you in your job or career, and how did you get to this point?
So I'm currently a fifth-year graduate student, getting a Ph.D. in chemistry. So this is my final year of that. So now I'm at the point where I'm looking and applying for jobs to get after my PhD is completed. So I'm kind of going through that process and getting into that, making a decision what I want to do with the rest of my life. I kind of always figured, even like through middle school, I figured I'd go like the math and science route, but I didn't really know what I wanted to do going forward. And that kind of held true through high school. And so when I went to college, I had a major of biochemistry because I thought that would give me the most options and try and figure out what I wanted to do. While I was in college, I had a second major of chemistry, still had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. But I took one class with a professor that I really loved. And I went to his office hours a lot and kind of talking to him about kind of what I could do because I was really interested in what he was working on. And he kind of suggested this chemistry PhD route and kind of helped me through the steps of applying and figuring out where I wanted to go. And that's kind of led me where I was today. So it was one professor who I really just kind of had a really strong connection with. And now we're at the end of 5 years. I should be shortly finishing up a thesis and completing my PhD.
Wow. So that one professor really impacted you.
Yeah, it was just like, it was one class that I really liked. So I took another class of his and I just go to his office hours. Even if I didn't have questions, I would just go and just kind of like hang out in the back. And we just kind of talk about stuff after the office hours. And I don't know.
Yeah, that was really smart to go to office hours and, like you said, just even hang out, even though maybe you didn't have something specific to ask him. I think that's really intelligent to think, well, I'm not sure exactly what will come of this, but I kind of like hanging out with this guy and see what comes of it.
Yeah, exactly. And it was a good way to fill some time.
Well, you're also in a world just like your brother, Ray, who I spoke with yesterday, that I know nothing about. And we did visit you in Ithaca recently, and you were wonderful to show us around a bit. But I mean, it was like another land as far as the actual, stuff and research that you do, but incredible.
And that was crazy because, like, to me now it's like second nature. But when I got here, I had no experience whatsoever with any of this kind of work. So it was just kind of like, and that was like, I made this decision to go to get a chemistry PhD without a background really in doing much chemical research.
Mm-hmm.
It was just something I was interested in. So it's a totally new field, and I came in as a total kind of novice. But now it's kind of like, a second skin. I know I'm very comfortable in what I'm doing, and it's kind of cool how I just kind of went with what I was interested in, and actually worked out quite well for me, I believe.
Yeah, that's really neat to go with what you enjoy and letting it unfold from there. That's the best way to go about things. So what's personally or professionally rewarding at this time for you?
So a big part of what I do, right, we're conducting research, and then you want to kind of disseminate that research. And that involves writing research articles and getting them published in peer-reviewed journals. So I've now have 3 publications that are out, and definitely just like you get that confirmation email, like this has been officially accepted to this journal manuscript. Is definitely one of those like real sense of accomplishment moments. And then we have a pen. Yeah, thank you. It was, and that's kind of like, I get the feeling of the first one, and it's like it feels really cool and it feels great, and you kind of wonder like, is the second and the third time going to feel different? And maybe it will eventually start feeling different, but I'm still pretty excited getting that confirmation email.
Now, could the general public, if you shared links to those, is the general public able to look and see what your research has been?
So it's dependent on the journal, actually. Some journals have like a paywall, but most of them, when you publish, you get a link, and it's good for the first like 3 months or something.
Mm-hmm.
So I've done that where I share it on my Facebook, so you can just kind of like show your friends and family. So yeah, the general public can see kind of what you've been working on. Something Cornell does a pretty good job of is you can kind of pay money to services, and it allows basically that paper to be available to the general public sooner. So there's a lot of papers that are kind of generally available. Mine aren't that old yet, but they will be at some point in time.
The most recent one, what was the basic underlying theory there?
So a main idea of what I'm trying to do is use cheaper and more readily available metals to do interesting reactions. Kind of the standard way of doing a lot of these chemical processes use really expensive metals. So we're just trying to use less expensive, more common metals to do the same tasks. Unsuccessfully in this last bit, but that is an important part of kind of the whole scientific process. Is if you're trying something and it's not working, you still did this reaction. That's still useful knowledge to know what doesn't work. You kind of, even like your failures, like there's still publications, there's still useful information a lot of the time, which is nice that you're still getting a reward for something that you spend, a couple of years working on. If it doesn't pan out, you still get something out of it.
Yeah. I like that overall idea, even as a theme for life. Your failures don't have to just be thought of as failures, but somehow a way to learn and take the lessons and do something different moving forward.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like it's very easy to see it in a chemistry frame of mind, and I feel like it'd be definitely beneficial if more people could kind of broaden that out to general life.
Yeah, chemistry frame of mind. There's your first book title. Well, we talk about making decisions on this podcast. So one of the questions I'm interested in is, how do you go about making smaller or bigger decisions and sort of feeling, confident with those decisions, or, experimenting with your decision making?
Definitely my mother has had complaints of my decision-making process because I'm not particularly proactive. I'm not making these decisions well ahead of time. If there's a deadline for a decision, I'm often making that decision pretty close to that deadline. In terms of which adds stress to other people's lives, but it doesn't really seem to impact me too much.
Sure.
In terms of actually like how I make the decisions, I'm not like a pros and cons making lists.
Right.
I like to have the information. I like to be informed about stuff. Like when I was picking which graduate school to go to, it's not like I sat down and wrote a list. It was really just kind of based on more just like the feeling of where I thought I fit in.
Right.
Because I was looking at different programs, and Cornell just felt like I fit in better with the people here, with kind of the culture.
Right.
And so it was less of a like hard X's and O's type of deal, and more of just like, this seems like this works best. This will work best for me. And at least with that decision, it's 5 years later. I'm very happy with the decision I made. I think it's worked out very well for me. I feel like I do that a lot, where it's like, and it's not like I'm making rash or quick decisions by my gut. It's just like, I'm not like my first thought, I'm like, oh yeah, that's my gut, I go with it. I kind of sit and just let it turn over in the back of my mind, I guess, kind of deal. I feel like by the time I actually need to make the decision at the deadline point, it seems like it's kind of already been made in my mind.
Right. Yeah, you've let it sit and simmer enough, and you kind of know when you know, because you've thought about it enough and you have become aware of options. So sort of when something does feel right, you really know it. It then becomes not really a decision. It's just something you almost kind of can just feel and know that it's not something you have to sit there and figure out anymore. It just comes to you.
Yeah, exactly. Or it's just kind of like, yes, it's not a decision has been made. It's like that's the option. That's what's going to happen.
Right. Yeah. Well, what do you think about with making mistakes? Have you ever felt that, geez, I've made so many mistakes, or I'm worried about, making another mistake, and sort of it affects your ability then to make decisions moving forward? I know that's personally happened for me quite a bit, so I always wonder what other people go through.
At least professionally, I feel like at least in the field I'm in, it's a lot of making mistakes. It's making the
Uh-huh.
wrong decision. Um, so I feel like again having that kind of like chemistry type mindset where it's just like it's reset. Okay, that didn't work. We're on to the next thing.
Right.
Or a lot of times, if there's more than one option for something, again, this works very well in chemistry, and I've kind of applied it. Is you kind of try both, or at least look into both, and you get the kind of ball rolling on both
Yeah.
options, if at all possible, and then just kind of call an audible or go off of that. Definitely made mistakes, but again, in the chemistry field, like I can't make a mistake if I went to the wrong graduate school or I go to the wrong initial job after this. Kind of being in the field I'm in, I feel like it is pretty like merit based, where I
Mhm.
don't really feel that if I make one mistake in where I go, my entire career is kind of down the drain. I feel like
Right.
if you're working hard and you have good ideas and you're able to articulate your ideas, you can kind of bounce around and eventually find your space and kind of flourish where you need to. So I feel like
Right.
just having that like mindset about it kind of takes pressure off the
Hmm.
worry of making a mistake, because I feel like it's not going to be a career defining or ending mistake, even if I do make a mistake of some sort.
Right. Right. And so you really set yourself up prior to this, where going back to your professor, you really found a field that was interesting to you and found a school that really felt right to you. And so now you're in a wonderful position of feeling, you can turn this way or that, but you're generally in the right area, right direction, and you don't have to freak out about, making one little move that's going to crumble everything for you.
Yeah, that's exactly. I feel like I feel very comfortable
Yeah.
with the outcomes of the decisions I've made, and I'm not
No,
so concerned about the future ones. So
that's awesome. Right. You got
we'll
the
see.
you got all the right stuff going on. I love it. All right. So we're talking about adulting as far as, moving forward in life and making decisions. So what does adulting mean to you?
So again, I feel like my view can be very different than people who like left after high school or just their undergrad degree. But I feel like going for a 5-year PhD program, it's really kind of pushed off that whole like being an adult type thing. Like I'm still in school. Like I'm still in school. I'm still finishing up. So at least in my mind, I feel like it's kind of common among the other like chemistry PhD students I know is like, we're not really adults yet. You're an adult when you have your like, once
But
you
you're
get
only
your
dealing with like whatever type of chemicals. I mean, toxic chemicals. You got to
very
have some.
toxic chemicals, but no real major life things. So I feel like in my mind, it's like you're not really to an adult stage until, at least as a chemist, you settle in, you have your first like real job, and you
Mhm.
have your like permanent apartment or house that you're living in, and not your, you know,
Mhm.
college town housing um, while you're still in school. So in my mind, I'm still not an adult. I'm a college kid. I'm 26, but still not an adult yet. Someday,
Oh, such a
just keep putting it
youngin'.
off.
Oh. You have all the time in the world to do all that adulting stuff. So enjoy, the environment that you're in now. But I know you've got adulting stuff going on. But I get what you mean about sort of being in a bubble, a bit of a bubble where you don't have some other concerns that you think you may have going into the future. All right. So, I talk about estate planning. And so one of the questions I have for you is, have you heard of basic estate planning documents, which would be a will, a power of attorney, and a healthcare proxy?
Yes, you definitely. I feel like they show up in TV shows a lot. If you've watched any medical show, there's always somebody's the healthcare proxy that's making their healthcare decisions when you're incapacitated or unable to.
That's right.
Um, And then, to my understanding, the more You also have to have somebody on kind of the financial side of things. In addition to medical decisions, you need kind of your power of attorney. Power of attorney can help with making your kind of monetary and your possession type decisions if you're incapacitated or whatever else. And then wills, again, I feel like there's definitely that understanding, whether it's ill-placed, that wills are for old people, or
Right.
people who are reaching the end of care. And I imagine that plenty of people will encourage you to get one at a younger age, but it's definitely not something that I've, set up or anything
Right.
like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, good review of everything. Way to go. Yeah, I mean, I think it's good to have a mindset where you think of those things so that, it's not left to the point where you actually need them. People wait and wait and wait, and then are usually reactive and wish things can't be, the best that they should have been because planning wasn't done. So I always think that at least if people have a certain mindset and knowledge about things, they're more prepared, to do those types of documents. And it's funny because the likelihood, let's say, of you needing those documents is extremely low, right? You're not going to potentially need these things, but just like health insurance or car insurance or something like that, you just want them in place in the event of something, going wrong. And so I always try and help people have that kind of mindset. It's sort of like insurance just to have in place. And even while you're alive, of course, the healthcare proxy, power of attorney are extremely important. And then the will, it's just more a matter of let's get in this mindset. So I'm always ready and willing to go forward and have these documents in place. So that's sort of my angle. And I'm going to go and read. There's an article that somebody put out in like a law journal where somebody is suggesting that when you go to the DMV to get your license renewed, that there be some type of estate planning, something or other. I'm going to go and read it. But I was like, yeah, that's probably a great idea. Just keep people in the know and keep it in their minds and give them some opportunities to take advantage of moments in life.
I feel like if that was something, like you said, if it was at a DMV or somewhere that you're already going and you kind of lump it in, because now it's like, I feel like I'm not going to go out of my way to contact an attorney and get it, set up to get, where it's like, well, it's admittedly probably not like a huge barrier and it wouldn't take that much time and that much of a hassle. It's just, it is something additional to do that I feel like a lot of people just won't do. And it's an easy thing to put off.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard of people, let's say they're in college, they're in universities, college settings, and let's say the parent wants to inquire on, whatever it is, a bill or something, and they're just not able to get any information whatsoever. And, there's those kind of, if you want to call them silly moments where you think, oh, a power of attorney would have helped. But, the more typical matters would be, like you said, if help in the event that for whatever reason you can't or just need some help, somebody who can come in and pay the bills or just do some things for you if need be. But very good answers. You did great. Interesting to hear your perspective. So what about a financial advisor? Do you think that's something that you would be interested in at this point? Sometime soon? Can't even imagine. Any thoughts there?
So I feel like that's another thing that kind of gets lumped into the when I become an adult, where it's like now, like I do have an income, but it's not like a large, it's not like I'm putting away a bunch of money. But like I have a Roth IRA set up, so I have some retirement set up. But in terms of like financial advisor, I feel like that's something more along the lines of when I get a real job, real adult kind of transition, it would seem like a more reasonable time to make that step.
I'm so impressed. You started a Roth IRA. That's totally planting the seeds, just even to sort of set yourself up in the mindset again.
No, it's a more recent addition. This is me like moving towards becoming an adult, I would say, getting an actual savings account or a retirement account set up and started. But yeah, it's a step.
I think when I was 26, I always tell people I'm a whole nother case and we don't want to go there, but So I always look at people, especially like you, and I go, wow, that is amazing what you're doing, and making such good decisions, and it's really great. All right, so what about handling an inheritance? Do you think that you could handle an inheritance, whether that be an interest in a home or a pot of cash or whatever that may look like? Do you think that you could handle an inheritance wisely?
I feel like the pot of cash is definitely the easier one over like a house, because the pot of cash, I feel like it's easier to just set up an account, and then like depending on the amount of it, I feel like I would get like a financial, get financial advice, get that set up, and just kind of set that away and set it and forget it and let it grow. Because it's not like I'm gonna go out and blow money on a new car, or like I have a TV and a laptop that works. Like I feel like I wouldn't go out and blow the money doing anything crazy,
Yeah,
because that's just not really am type of deal. The
right.
house, I feel like would be more of a pain, just like depending on the location of it. And it's like, what do you do with a house if it's not in a location I'm going to live? And like making a decision of like trying to rent it out or selling it, or I feel like that'd be more of an involved process, and
Hmm.
definitely more challenging than just being getting money.
Yeah,
Um, but
especially if there's other people who are also interested in the home. Let's say if it were you three, and now you three have to ultimately be at least okay with potentially what happened with the home. But hey, I'm getting a little bit too morbid, huh? No, but it's interesting. Yeah, I don't think you would do anything, crazy or something that would really put you in a bad place. You would definitely be wise and do something good, whatever that may be, and not do something rash that I always, think that can cause further problems for people. So I know you do the right thing as far as figuring it out. What do you think about making good decisions into the future as your personal and professional life changes?
So like I kind of mentioned at the beginning, I'm getting to that point where I need to make a decision on kind of the next little phase of my life here.
Yeah.
Um, but like I said, I'm pretty happy with how my last, decision turned out. So I figure that because I haven't like had major regrets, I probably don't need to make a big change in terms of my decision making process, and just kind of let the answer kind of come to me more so.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I guess like being where I am and having what it feels like the success I've had, kind of there's a confidence in that
Yeah.
I've made the right decisions in the past. It's led me down a good track, and as long as I keep like doing what I've been doing, it seems to be working out quite well for me. Um,
Yeah, and that's what interests me so much, because when you are, even at very young ages, able to find a way to make a decision that works for you, goes with your gut, you just feel right about it, you spend enough time researching it, or you've learned from another mistake or something, but you start making really good decisions, then you have a basis to feel confident in yourself and really know that you can move forward making decisions and making the best outcomes for yourself. So to me, that's ultimate. I just think that's so important, and I see you making those wonderful decisions. So I think it's just very impressive.
yeah, and like I said, because of how it worked out, it definitely helps. I can't say I have any insight into if I had major regrets, how I would try and change that, because that's a bridge I haven't had to cross at
Right.
this point in time.
But think of the mindset that you already even have, where you said, chemistry state of mind, where you feel like, I know enough in my being that if something went wrong, I'm going to use it as a way to correct, what I do next and take it as a lesson. So I think that your mindset is really important and established in a good way. Well, is there anything that you want to add as far as any thoughts or anything you want people to know, or anything I didn't cover, or anything that you want to say?
I feel like we've covered my kind of life outlook on things, kind of letting decisions come to me, making decisions, doing stuff that I enjoy to do. Um, and it's worked well for me. I would like to continue making these types of decisions with these types of outcomes. But no, I think we've definitely covered my expertise in terms of making adult decisions, because that's still something that I am growing into as a still in school mindset. Still up here, I'm still a student, not an adult, but it's progressing. And
Well, I told Ray I was so impressed, and he's so amazing. And honestly, so are you. You're so impressive and so amazing. I can't believe you guys. So you're going to do everything that seems right to you in life, and continue to enjoy yourself and make those really good decisions. So thank you so much for being a part of the podcast.
Yep, thanks for having me on.